What up, what up, what up, everybody? Hey, man, welcome to the Man Cave experience with myself, Cedric Edison, my man, Ron Servin. Hey, and y'all see our very special guest in the middle. That's my man, Dom Campbell. So, hey, I know we can't hear y'all because everybody's at their house, but if you're at the house, man, go ahead and give my man's and the Man Cave a good round of applause. Y'all. It's part two. Y'all know how we've been doing it. We've been just kind of chopping it up at, the first beginning of the month. And then we'll bring our special guest in, one of our friends, colleagues, somebody we admire. Man, this dude here, we all went to the same school. I believe Dom came a little bit before us, or a little bit after us. And we met at a live event, and just the energy was just ridiculous, man. Just ridiculous. Just one of those people, and you feel like, yo, this is like my first cousin. This is like my brother. And I remember sharing a story one night where Dom was around too. And so we had a little deep connection there. Man, just a all around good dude, man, that we brought into the cave. But before we go into all of that stuff, man, the who does what by when and all of that good stuff, man, let's do a quick check-in. Ron, what's happening over there on the West Coast?
Oh, doing well. Just, I've been kind of excited the last month, just knowing we're having Dom in. Dom's just been a great friend, great, person to really learn from and grow with. And just, I'm feeling, as you know, and I know I've been sharing with Dom, just, going through some challenges in my life around my health and some pain related to that, but learning from that. I think that's why we show up here, is to learn from each other, to be real. And I think that's one thing I really appreciate about Dom, is just not looking at life as happening against, impacting his life in a negative way. It's like, this life is happening for me. And I'm sure Dom's going to share some of those things that have happened to him. And he's taken that in a way that's allowed him to shift his life in a positive way and really come out, in a much higher level. So excited to be here, excited to experience you guys. So,
Dom, what's up, man? Tell
Cedric,
us who you are, what you do, man. What's up?
Cedric, Ron, it's great to be here with you guys. And Cedric, I think I came after you. I was after you. I was January 2018, I think, is when I started. Okay. But I will never forget that first live event. I remember sitting in that back row with you, Cedric, in that moment. Yeah, it was an amazing moment. Had the chills. But it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. A little bit about me. I'm a divorced dad. I have 2 sons. They're in the middle school, so God help me. But it's awesome. I used to work in corporate America for 20 years in corporate IT. I used to work for Toys R Us, actually, before they went bankrupt. They went bankrupt in 2018 in the middle of my training to become a coach, which is what I do now. I have my own coaching business full time. And what I do now is basically equip people to really step into their power and to break through their stuckness and their stress and their struggles to become mentally robust, emotionally intelligent, physically resilient, spiritually conscious, and humanly connected. And so that's where I spend all my time now, helping people to step into that, to break through and step into those aspects of themselves that they're looking to, break into.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think part of the reason we had Dom in was, for various reasons, but, just we're all fellow dads, different stages of our life. Cedric's got the youngest of us. I've got a 16-year-old. And we're all coaches, we've all had challenges in our life that have brought us together and really been able to share in a way where we can learn again about each other and grow with each other. So I'm just curious, Dom, when we've had these conversations in the past, and knowing that when we get in coach mode, right, we're oftentimes kind of going through some methodical ways to allow people to open themselves up, to, dig into those different layers of their life and initiate those changes in their life. And for me, I found at times where I'm not necessarily like going through those same processes with my son, but finding where I'm maybe engaging in a way that is not really helping him through a situation. Sometimes he needs to learn and fall down and get through that situation versus thinking I need to apply some of my coaching skills to get him through that. Not that there aren't opportunities in being a dad to do that, but I'm just curious for you, what has come up for you, knowing not only the challenge of having 2 young boys, but going through divorce, being sometimes probably both the mom and the dad, and then putting on your coach hat and being an entrepreneur. So I'm just curious, what's come up for you that's really been a challenge that you can share with our listeners that they can maybe learn about themselves from.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. It's interesting because in this whole experience, I was married. I got divorced in 2012. They were very young at the time. They were 5 and 3 when I got divorced. And so at the time I was still working in corporate America. And so, making that work, coming out of the divorce, dealing with anxiety attacks from that experience, having gained weight. And what I realized coming out of that experience for myself first was I wasn't taking care of me at all. Like, I had put myself at the bottom of my own priority list. Before all of that, it was like, wife and kids and job and chores around the house and mowing the lawn and doing the stuff with the cars and like just running life, and put myself at the bottom of it. I didn't do anything for myself. And when after the divorce, I lost a lot. I felt like that was the biggest failure of my entire life. I struggled a lot in failure after that. And it's like I lost my family. I felt like, I lost my family. I only get to see my kids half the time now instead of every day after work. I lost friends because of it. I lost a church community eventually because of it. I'm a worship leader in my church, and because now I'm divorced, that became a thing. So I had to leave that. I lost financially, majorly, in a major way. The only thing that wasn't impacted was my job. That was the only thing that was intact after the divorce. Every place else, my life was a shambles. My health was a shambles. My relationships were a shambles across the board. And I realized that I needed to take priority for me again. And the moment that I started doing that, it was around my health. I focused on just exercising and nailing down my nutrition a little bit tighter, and lost about 40 pounds in a little over 2 months. And about a month after that, came off the anxiety meds and haven't been back since, thank God. But that was the shift for me, right? Just putting time in for me first at the beginning of every day. And I went from being this broken shell of a man who was struggling in the biggest failure of his life, essentially, and really trying to figure out how to get through it, to a man just 3 months later feeling like I was 180 degrees the other way. I had confidence. Like I was looking forward at my future instead of at my mistakes of the past, and just kind of being stuck in that victimhood. So that was the shift. And then going through those following years, I really just started focusing on my relationships with people, because in that experience of the divorce, I lost so many relationships. And I was interesting because, we're taught to, there's a difference between being good at being a man and being a good man.
Ooh, I like that.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
And I don't think I fully understood what that difference was until after I was divorced, and how I related to people. Before my divorce, like I said, I worked in IT for so many years. For over 25 years, I was a critical thinker. I solved problems all day long. So naturally, when I got married, I was already 15 years into my career when I got married. I brought that part of me into my relationship. And it was very successful for me at work, but not so much in my relationships, right? a critical mind doesn't work so well in relationships. And like when our partners come to us because they're struggling, they don't want to be fixed. They want just to be heard and understood. And I didn't fully grasp that. I didn't have the capacity to grasp it. I didn't know it, and you don't know what you don't know.
I can imagine, Don, through that process, and as far as feeling a need or a desire to be like more of a coach, like a coaching dad type thing. Because I think what you've done, I think that's something that is a huge lesson for us to learn from, is you were just setting the example. I mean, sometimes that's the best way to coach our children, is just to not tell them what they need to be doing. You've been showing that to them, and how powerful that is. Because I think men sometimes don't feel like we're capable of doing that, like we're lesser than, because we're showing that vulnerable side of ourselves. And that's something that is so inspiring for you. And I just appreciate that you're willing to share that part of you, knowing that it's not about instruction manual, right? It's just being the best dad you could be. And that's what you needed to do for them.
Yeah. And go ahead, Cedric.
Oh, no, I was going to ask a question. Go ahead, brother.
No, what's your question?
I was just kind of curious, man, because you were talking about how you had this transition, and you went into the weight loss and started to mend the relationships. I'm kind of curious, and I'm asking as that person, or for that person that would be out there struggling, like, what was going on in your mind? Like, what was kind of happening that made you feel like you needed to change? And what, if anything, was the precipice like to start that change? Was it the divorce?
The divorce was the reason, but the divorce also sent me into victimhood. So what actually the seed that shifted it, 2 months before I moved into this place, I read a book from John Maxwell called Failing Forward. And that was the seed for me, because I was struggling with the failure part of, the biggest failure in my life. Like, I've failed before, but like this just felt so catastrophic. Like, how am I going to recover from this? And there was just, in the beginning, in the marital relationship, it was very tenuous and very cold. And it's like, how do I had a vision that failing forward, what he did in that book is he had me create a new vision. Like, if I can't have my marriage back, if I can't put back what I had, what would I want instead? So knowing that it couldn't be marriage, it had to be something else, I envisioned a different type of family. I envisioned a family where the two parents are co-parenting really well. They're like best friends, and we can take vacations together. It's that good. That's what I envisioned. And back in 2012, I wasn't anywhere near that. But like, after reading the book, like that's what I envisioned. I had no idea the how. I still had a lot of anger built up in myself around everything that had happened. Because I didn't want the divorce. She did. So there was that aspect of the healing that I needed to do within myself as well. But that was the seed, right? To set the intention. What do I want? And then to begin figuring out ways, like allowing myself to have my own experience to move closer. How can I work toward having that experience? And it took me 3 years, but eventually in 2014, I told my ex, I'm like, look, I want to take my kids to Disney World for the first time. And my intention is to take them. And if you want to go, I don't want to deprive you of that opportunity. We'll get adjoining rooms and we can share in the experience of what that would be like together. If you did that without me, I'd be ripping pissed off. So I want to have the same mutual respect. And we went on that trip together. We saved up the money. And a year later, we took that trip in 2015. And it was the most amazing trip we ever had in our life. And since then, that was the big shift that happened. And since then, we take a vacation every year together, the four of us as a family. And we do things more as a family. We celebrate birthdays. We'll take small trips. You know, we don't live together, obviously, and she lives a half a mile down the road, and it's shared custody. We split custody, but like it's really worked out well, but it's taken a lot of work, and I had to do the work. It started with me. I expected nothing of her. I put it all on me to do. This was all change I had to do from the inside. I had to get out of my victimhood. I had to take responsibility. I had to work through my anger. I had to understand how I was showing up in the relationship, and I had to change me.
Nobody else could do the work for you?
Nope. But the hardest thing in that work is like recognizing, like, I had to communicate differently, because the way I was communicating before obviously didn't work. It led to a divorce. Right. So like there's something in the relationship that was wrong. And I recognize that if I changed my part and I changed it positively, she's eventually going to have to change her part positively. Right. Like that has to happen. And if she doesn't, that's fine too. But it doesn't mean I have to be affected by her. So I was starting to learn boundaries in relationship and just understanding cause and effect. How my own energy was affected by how I showed up with other people.
One of the things you were doing, Dom, is you were creating those desires, right? Because I think, you know, the listeners might be hearing you say, you know, I had to do this. I needed to do this. But what I'm hearing you saying, these were things that you desired to really experience in your life, and you took those steps to make that happen. You know, I was just thinking, you know, and we oftentimes talk, Cedric and I, here about, you know, that we feel each one of us, and I know, Dom, you feel the same way. We each have some beautiful, unique gift that's just you own, right? There's nobody else in the world that possesses that gift that you have. I'm just curious, and maybe you don't have the answer. Maybe it's a question you can ponder, but so your beautiful gift that you've discovered as a dad within you, that you've, you know, kind of grown into. I'm just curious, is that gift or that trait that you've learned about yourself as a dad something you can identify now that really strengthens you as a coach in your practice?
Oh, yeah. I can tell you the moment it happened. In 2018, when my dad passed, and I felt him pass, and he spoke to me and I spoke to him, and I will never forget that experience. And that experience, it's almost like I had a spiritual awakening of a certain sense. Like when I had that experience, it's like my doors were just completely blown off of me. But everything shifted for me in that moment. Like my relationship that I had with my dad shifted. I felt a love from him that I never got to experience when he was here in his physical being, because of like filters that our egos tend to put in place as men. You know, I got to feel the full essence of his full love in a completely unfiltered way that I never experienced before, which was just amazing. And when I think about my own relationship with my father and having that experience, and now looking at my own kids as the father, it's a different experience. It's not the same experience I had before my dad passed. My relationships with my kids it's hard to describe, but it's my awareness, I guess, of things or consciousness level is maybe at a higher or heightened level than it was before, in terms of like how I'm showing up and relating to them every day, if that's making sense.
And it's so important, because I think, you know, we oftentimes like cast off our fathers or a parent, you know, parental figure, and we don't keep, you know, that opening for them to potentially come into our life, right? Whether it's while they're still on this earth or after they've left this earth. And I think that's so important, because I think otherwise we're just like bound by that pain for the rest of our life. And that's something we probably then give off to our children, our sons, and then they feel that and they learn from us, and they probably do the same things that we're going through. So I truly value you sharing that, because it's so important. And you listeners may have that stuckness in your life that you're not keeping that opportunity, that possibility open for you to rekindle any relationships that you may have, whether they're here on this earth or not. There's still that ability to really, understand where the healing lies within yourself.
Yeah. And Ron, just to make a point, like I wasn't in bad relationship with my dad when he passed, right? Yeah. But like I wasn't in bad relationship with my dad, but I can't say he was my best buddy either, right? It wasn't that kind of relationship. Like I respected my dad. He respected me. I think he was proud of me. I know that, but it wasn't like I went and hung out with my dad and did things. It wasn't that kind of relationship. It was like my dad went off. He left his family and went into service when he was 16 and got his high school diploma, his GED, when he was in the service. And he never went back home after that. And I kind of did the same thing. When I was 18, I went to college and I went and I moved out and moved in with a roommate and put my way through school and had a roommate and worked a full-time job and went to school full-time. It was insane. I don't know how the hell I did it, but like I did it. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I was able to do it then because I was just responsible for me. And it's kind of interesting. I followed in his footsteps in that way. He was very independent. And so if there was something, that's one positive thing that I think I learned from him in his example, is that he was very independent. He didn't follow the lead of his family or the crowd per se. He kind of did what he wanted to do. But then, as I got older, he changed, as we all do when we get older, right? When we're younger, we tend to be riskier. This wasn't true for me, but it's true for what I think I see in most people. In our younger years, we tend to be riskier, and as we get older, we become less risky. That was not the case for me. That's Cedric. Like that's not the case for me. Like I was raised to be to be obedient. I was the first son, right? And I have a younger sister, but like I was the one that had the rules were created and they had to be followed and all this stuff, and the quote unquote good son, right? Like that's what I was raised to be, and I think I was, right? But I was always a rule follower. I was not like the kid to take risks. I wasn't encouraged to take risks, even though my dad was like that. He worked in retail, worked paycheck to paycheck. There was this fear of always losing the job, of not having enough money, fear of scarcity was very present, right? So that was kind of the energy of what I grew up in. And I kind of carried that. I brought that from my childhood into my adulthood. So I never really took a lot of risks until it was after he passed. And then I lost my job without severance a month after that. And it's like, what do I do? Because I'm in school to coach, to earn my coaching certifications. Like that was the next big thing that happened, right? Like, do I get another IT job because I was making really good money doing that? Or do I just follow my heart and say, screw it? Do I just go into coaching and trust what I'm being taught is going to work and go all in? And I spent a number of weeks going back and forth between all of that. And the live event that Cedric was talking about before, at the end of that live event, I made the decision, like, I'm just going to go all in full time. And that was hugely risky. Like to become an entrepreneur, it's something that is completely different than what I was currently doing. My head gave me a really hard time with that, but like I had to practice learning how to quiet the mind down, right, to calm the mind so I can allow my heart to speak to me, because I wasn't even hearing my heart half the time. My head was screaming at me like, stop, you can't do it, it's not safe, how are you going to earn enough money, like you're going from 6 figures to 0, like how do you reconcile that? And I couldn't, like, I was in the middle of being educated, I didn't even have a plan, right? So like, of course my brain is going to be going off the wall and flashing red lights, right? But like I felt like I was being divinely led to do this, and it was the first time I took a really big risk, and I just trusted, and I just kept trusting, and it's one step in front of another. I didn't have the big plan like I did when I worked in IT, right? I always worked by a plan, and I had contingencies for contingencies. So when the shit hit the fan, I knew what I was going to do. I didn't have that here. There was no alternative. My alternative plan was coaching, but I wasn't far enough into the plan to do the leap, so to speak, right? I was in flight of learning, but I just said, screw it, I'm just going to do it and see where this goes. And it's been a roller coaster ride, and it's been great fun. And it's been the best 3 years of my life. I took a chance on myself. I gambled on myself, and I feel like I won, but it wasn't the kind of win like, we think about taking a gamble and winning, kind of like going to Vegas and pulling the slot machine arm. And what are the chances you're going to hit the jackpot, right? They're slim to none. And I think that's what my brain was worried about. It's like, I'm going to pull the lever of the chance and I'm not going to hit the jackpot. But the whole thing is, it's like, this isn't an all or nothing game we're playing.
Right.
There's a whole lot more in the middle than just the money we're earning here that I wasn't even considering in weighing this decision. My mind was so wrapped up around the money. How am I going to do it? And all of this. And yeah, money's a thing, but it's not the only thing. And what I went from was starting off being in a scarcity of not having enough money, right? Wanting the freedom, but not having enough money, to now I have the freedom. I'm not earning the same amount of money I used to earn, but I've got a whole lot more freedom. And I'm scared of losing my freedom now. That's about the money, right? The money, I'm doing what I love, and I know that the money's working out. It's coming as I go. So I treasure my freedom more than that steady paycheck now, because I'm getting to do what I love to do, and I get to earn my income that way. And so that was the second big shift for me. It was like the first, the divorce, well, probably the third, then my dad's passing, and then the losing of my job right on the heels of that. There was just so much change, because everything that was changed after the divorce, everything that wasn't changed got hit very tightly a few years later.
Man, I know Cedric's been patiently waiting to ask his next question, but just, Dom, what I took from you when you're saying that, which I think is another powerful moment, is I think as men, oftentimes we just keep things inside, right? We don't even share our intimate thoughts and feelings with other people, whether it's our spouse, our significant other, or even our friends, our close male friends. And I think that's what you've done, right? And I think that's what we're trying to really encourage you, the listener, to do, is to not just keep these ideas and dreams and visions of yourself bottled up inside of you. Share them with somebody. It's somebody that needs to listen to what you have to say, because that's going to inspire you to realize what's possible for you, and don't feel this judgment of parts of you that you feel that you don't want others to see. It's like that vulnerable side that Dom has shared, his story, and even Cedric's story, and even my story that's got me to where I'm at today, hasn't always been pretty. But if I kept all those stories inside and I didn't share how I've grown from them and through them, then I think that's where we miss that mark. So, Ced, I know you've got something to question here. So
man, he was going. I'm like, okay, well, he answered that one. All right. I'm kind of, man, one, like hearing you talk, like the only thing that keeps coming up is, this is the conversation of the 4 agreements that I'm hearing, right? And for you guys that don't know, that's a book by Don Ruiz, where it's just 4 basic principles to or 4 agreements to live by. Be impeccable. I won't go through those. You can look the book up, but that's what I'm hearing from that. So, man, especially like in these times that we're in right now, and you have that transition from boyhood to, well, teenage, but manhood, as they might feel some days, right? So how do you translate the mindset that we have, as coaches? How do you translate that over to the younger generation that's being bombarded by everything, especially being only confined to a screen now, with not being able to go anywhere? So what's some of the stuff that's working for you?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is being not telling. Being not telling. I find that when I am being the man that I want to be, my boys will just seem to just naturally model they want to be what I am. When I'm being the best of me, they want to be more of that, and they model the behavior. When I tell them that this is what they need to be doing or this is how they should be, it's just like the walls go whoop, they go right up, and it's like, who are you to be telling me? I know better than you in all of their 14 years of wisdom, right? They know better than me. Yeah, and that stirs up that just seems to create argument, right? You get into that game of who's right, who's more right, who's got more wisdom, and all this stuff. And I don't like getting into that game. I don't want to create argument. That's not. I want to create relationship. And like that is what I try to keep in the forefront of my mind. Like, do I want to win the argument with my son, or do I want to win a relationship?
I love that. I love that.
Like
not making assumptions from the book. Like,
hands down, I'll win a relationship over winning an argument every time.
Right.
If I have to pick every time, especially when it comes to my kids. So you have to eat your ego sometimes.
Oh man, you took it. I was about to say, because most of the time what I found is with me, it's pride and it's ego. And it just boils down to I'm staying in this continual loop to try to prove I'm right and you're wrong. That gets that gets us stuck in a loop of right or wrong, where the truth of the matter is you're right, I'm wrong, and you're wrong. They're just opinions. It's not the absolute. So I love that, dude. Create winning the relationship and not the golly. I love that, winning the relationship.
Well, this is the time of show where Cedric and I get to ask some thought-provoking questions. Not the questions we've already asked aren't thought-provoking, but just some questions we like to ask our guests, Dom. So with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and ask you the first question, then we'll kind of tie a bow on it and have Cedric ask his question, then we'll say our goodbyes and move on. So are you okay with me asking you that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So imagine you were able to, for one day, let's say for one day, be any man at any time in the world since man has existed. Who would that man be and why? So for one day, you would step into their shoes. You would be that person for that day. But you're still Dom, but you're living their life.
This is going to sound like a cop-out, but I wouldn't want any other life than what I have right now. I don't want anybody else's. I feel like there's nobody I would rather be right now. I feel like I'm living in a unique time on this small rock that's flying around the universe. I feel like I'm living in a very unique time, and I don't believe there's any mistake why I'm here at this time. I don't believe there's any mistake why we're communicating like this at this time. Like all of the experiences that I've had, like I feel like I've had a really good life. I feel like I've had a blessed life. I've got to do amazing things, and I've got to experience some amazing things. I don't need anything. Yeah. Everything I have, I'm grateful for. And so I don't, it's not something I've really aspired to. Like I wish I had somebody else's life kind of thing. That never really, it doesn't really turn me on. I love the life that I'm having.
Mm-hmm. No, I would say that's not a cop-out at all. I think that's just integrity. That's truth. That's who you are. I think that's important. So thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Sed, drop it on him.
And that's love. That's okay, man. So, golly, I love when people come on and say me. I love that, dude, because all I hear is I love me. Like, who else would I want to be, really? But so, space is not an issue. How would you want to be remembered on your tombstone? What would that read?
That's a really interesting question. Considering my dad just passed 3 years ago, and that I've never really thought about that for myself. No regrets. No regrets. I think if I die with regrets, that's the worst possible feeling. So no regrets.
Dom Campbell, you're freaking amazing, dude.
You guys are amazing, Cedric and Ron, for doing what you're doing here. It's so needed.
So you're the listener. I mean, if there is just one action item you can take as a result of this conversation, take it. It doesn't have to. And we've learned in coaching, I'm sure you may have heard the same tagline, small hinges swing big doors. Take a step in your life towards what you want to experience in your relationships, being a dad, in your profession, having balance where you can actually do them both, not feel like you need to excel as a entrepreneur, as a businessman, but then leave behind the relationships that you're not experiencing with your children. And I think it's so important for us here just to show up for you and appreciating you for learning and growing with us. As always, drop any comments that you feel are important to share with us. And Dom, thanks so much for showing up for us and with us. And Ced, as always, just love the space that you fill on your side over there in Texas. Being kind of we're so far away. Dom's in Jersey. I'm in Southern California, and Ced's in Texas. So we got quite the triangle going on there. So appreciate you men being an important part of my life and everything you bring to my world. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Greatly appreciate it. It's not a lot of people that can come in the cave and calm me down. Because, when I came on your show, I'm like, yo, like, let's hear, I got a bunch of energy. But that, to me, that speaks volumes, man. I know the growth. I've seen it. We've been watching the journey of each other, all of us, as we grow. Wow. Just amazing leaps and bounds, man. And appreciate you coming and blessing our audience, blessing us with your spirit, with your energy, your story. Man, always grateful, always grateful. And if I could take anything away from this, it's really around those 4 agreements. The big thing is not to take anything personally, and to make sure you're incorporating the best words for the reality that you want to live and experience. You don't have to react to the words that you hear, and understand that the words you use could cause a reaction. So why not use those to cause the best reaction for the best possible result, which is win the relationship, not the argument. And that goes for you. Win the relationship with you and not that argument in your brain that we would call fear or some other descriptor out there. So I appreciate you for bringing that back to the forefront and placing that on my heart, man. I really do. And Ron, you already know what it do, man.
Dom, anything you want to share before we close out here?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you both for having me here. It's been great connecting with you guys again. And just if you're looking to reach out to me, I have a YouTube channel. Just look for me, Dom Campbell. I just launched it. I'd love to have you connect with me there. I also have a website, proempowerment.com. You can reach me there. But otherwise, I just want to say thank you. This has been amazing. It's been amazing connection time, and you guys have been awesome. Thank you.
And everybody, we'll be sure to go ahead and put all of Dom's contact information and all of his good stuff down there in the comments, so you guys can get in touch with him, check him out, go and visit out, and to get into his sphere. It's a really cool spirit, really cool cat. Y'all witnessed them here in the man cave with myself, Cedric Edison, and my man over there to my right, Ron Servin. As always, y'all, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all joining us, man.
Peace.